Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble. You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and this is Anti-Media Radio. We are your alternative to the mainstream narrative and the fear-mongering corporate media. Sorry for any technical difficulties we had coming into the program. We have just had multiple power outages here in the studio. We think we have everything up right now. We will see how this works. So please bear with us tonight. It is June the 25th, 2015. There have been 545 Americans killed by police officers so far this year. We have had 61 police officers that have been killed in the line of duty. Well, I should say die in the line of duty, more importantly. Only 16 have been killed by a gunshot. We have also had in the very staunch, strict gun law city of Chicago, Illinois, 1,236 people have been shot so far in the Windy City. We've also had 213 homicides. Saudi Arabia is an interesting story. Last week they hit the 100 mark of beheadings. And now, all the stats, everything coming out of Saudi Arabia has dried up. I don't know if they've just completely stopped executing people, if the media has gone completely cold and silent. We do know that the cables have come out about Saudi Arabia suggesting, not suggesting, but say it, that WikiLeaks released that they have very, very, very influential control over media outlets all over the world. But before we even go any further, I want to bring on the show, as always, our fantastic and wonderful producer, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, how you doing?
I'm grateful the lights are on. Yeah, that's.
I'm telling you,
it was scary here for a moment.
I'm telling you, I think we're just trying to juggle the show right now with all this technology and
or lack thereof.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, let's talk. We chat, before every show. Of course, we've kind of been scrambling tonight, but in the middle of our scrambling, one of the suppose, why do you suppose this, or why do you think this is going on? And we do that with a lot of the subjects that we talk about because, again, we know very well that our government and certain other entities throughout the world will take advantage of misinformation. And any time that the American public is looking one way, something else is going on. But it's very curious because, again, Saudi Arabia is so far out of everybody's radar, and we talk about them constantly on this show, the incestuous nature of the relationship they have with the United States, as well as all of the atrocities that they've done, just like America has done, in the name of terrorism, in the name of freedom, and so on and so forth. And that also includes beheading people that are exercising the same right that we are exercising right now by just speaking our mind and being able to communicate thoughts and ideas. And, not necessarily that they'll always be right or correct, but we're at least given the freedom to do so. Not so much in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, it is curious. Why is that whole region? Is there anything else going on in the Middle East right now that we need to know about?
Well, ISIS has just done something that could ensure their demise. The one thing that the United States will always pull the trigger on and stop this, well, we can't stop them. We don't know what we're doing. ISIS has minted their own gold currency now, gold and silver, which we know the last person that tried to do that in the region, I believe, was a man by the name of Muammar Gaddafi.
I remember him. Oh, Muammar. Yeah.
And I think he tried to get away from the entire petrodollar, which that didn't work out very well for him. ISIS, they have said that the exchange rate of their currency is that for one gold dinar is equal to $139, and that one silver coin is reported at $1, is what they're saying. And this is all being reported by ISIS themselves on social media. But they're saying one gold dinar is $139. And
how much is a Bitcoin worth these days?
$240-ish.
You know where I'm going with this, right?
Mm.
Because, again, regardless of whether we think it's a good idea or a bad idea, it's absolute suicide for them. I mean, ISIS has kind of thumbed their nose at America, knowing what they know about America, like a lot of other foreign entities wind up doing. I don't see much of a difference between this and Bitcoin, though. You have an entity that has decided to go ahead and
whoa,
serve their own
wait.
currency.
Here's the difference. First off, what country is ISIS most predominant in?
These days, that would be, I don't know, help me on this one. You know the answer to this.
It's a Hussein, Saddam Hussein, was that his name?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of it.
Iraq, I think. There's a Q, but there's no
Iraq.
U after it. They told me
not
the rules.
Iran. Not
Not Iran.
Iraq. Why are they in Iraq?
But what does Iraq have a lot of?
Yeah, but why are they in Iraq? I don't understand that.
Oh, that's a long story in and of itself.
Well,
anyway.
But what does Iraq have to offer ISIS?
There may or may not be a substance underneath the ground there that people use to put in their automobiles, among many, many other things.
Oil. Oil!
So what we're saying is Bitcoin that's not running the market for oil traded around the world. The petrodollar, obviously.
It's not the petrodollar, it's the ISIS money.
ISIS...
There's so many different...
If ISIS tries to then
I don't understand why they didn't go with like their own snazzy name for their, for their dollar. Dollar's been used before. And some of the other... What is the silver one?
Dinar and the the silver dirham. But what's important here is, I think, the statement that ISIS released about it, and it's really kind of funny, is they say that they want to get Muslims off of the satanic global economic system, ergo their new currency.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time finding a problem with anything they're trying to do. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I'd like to see really the end result of what they're able to
I
do.
think before you're misquoted by somebody, you have a problem with what ISIS is doing. I think your point is as far as their currency goes.
No, I don't see a problem with what they're trying to do with their currency. Take the fact that it's ISIS. Okay, we know ISIS are some bad folks. They're doing some stupid shit over there. They're doing the same stuff that the American government does all around the globe. And America gets to do it all over the globe. They're just doing it over in Iraq. And, wherever else they happen to populate the region with all of that American military training that they have and military equipment. I know it's not super old equipment, but, it's still pretty potent nonetheless. They're able to kind of keep it stirred up over there, right?
A little bit.
Yeah. America.
All right, let's take a pause here for a second.
Pause.
I'm sitting here juggling.
This has been a weird night. We started, we had to start off with, through the apocalypse and then come talk about the apocalypse.
So, I'm sitting here juggling 10 different things, and Shannon's sitting here juggling 10 different things. So just bear with us here right now. But before we go any further, I really want to bring this up. Today would have been the 13th birthday for Tamir Rice. It's a super sad story. Most people, I would assume at this point, know the 12-year-old that was shot and killed by the police officer in Cleveland, Ohio earlier this year for playing at a park with his pellet gun. So, no matter what you think about the politics of certain things, or no matter what side you're on, and you're on this side of the protest or that side of the protest, or you're on the side of no protest and you're busy watching the Kardashians most of the day, I think everybody needs to acknowledge that a child lost his life, and his family right now is having to go through the first birthday that he's had since they lost him. And that's just an absolutely horrible, horrific thing. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And, hopefully his killer will be brought to justice because, from the video that has been released and everyone has seen, he didn't warrant being shot and killed. But, that gets more into, the politics of it. And that's this is bigger than that. A family lost their 12-year-old son. So,
well, I'm really enjoying the way that the politics have swung in this particular case. The citizens of and this is activism. This is when we preach about activism on the show. This is exactly what we're talking about. Community leaders got together and forced their way into the courtroom and actually had a different judge review the same exact horrific surveillance video that we've seen on the internet time and time again. Saw the same video we did, and strangely enough, had the same reaction we did too. Yeah, I was absolutely sickened by it, and there definitely needs to be some charges filed against this person who shot Tamir Rice. So now we have the officer that is responsible for the shooting, who has already been cleared by the prosecution there in Cleveland. The district attorney has went ahead and given him a pass, and apparently that pass has been revoked, and he now has to stand trial. We hope that justice is served in this. There might be some new evidence come to light, but I just saw the same video that I saw, which we can talk about, argue semantics all day long, and talk about trajectory and response time and this, that, and the other. I saw a police officer drive up and within 3 seconds of getting out of his car with his gun drawn, shooting a child.
I mean, unfortunately, that is what happened.
That's fact.
I mean,
you can argue any other semantics you want to, and you can argue about the angle if you want to. It looked pretty clear to me.
yeah, I mean, and the thing that's just so absolutely disgusting about it is
Where's the body cam footage? Where's the microphone footage?
right? But the thing that's so disgusting is, like, you take a case like Ferguson, and they have Michael Brown, and then, they have the video of him robbing the store, and so many people around the country just like, well, this thug, and all this stuff. This grown man was rushing another grown man, and he was 18 years old. And, another thing that bothers me is you have Dylan Roof over there who's 21 and shoots and kills 9 people. And they're just saying, well, this child murdered these people.
We took Burger King on the way to
right.
the jail.
I find that
we understand you're shaking up. You hadn't eaten, kid. We'll go ahead and get you some Burger King.
Yeah, I think that there's some hypocrisy there, but that's really more to sway the emotions of people and who they should fear and yada yada yada, and that's more propaganda techniques. But we're talking here about a 12-year-old child, okay? There's no footage of him robbing a store. There's certainly no anybody being murdered. It's a child in a park with a pellet gun. Shot, dead, and killed. You would have to be a complete monster to try to justify that one. Even if you sit here, being complete devil's advocate, well, the cop saw that he had a gun in his hand, and it should have had this tip on the end of it, this orange tip, and he got scared and shot. Well, you know what? He shouldn't have been an officer if he's going to be scared of a 12-year-old, period, because he was shot so immediate. There was no time for any verbal exchange, no anything. So, yes, guess what? Family still lost their child, and it's still murder, no matter how you look at it. It doesn't matter the color of the child's skin, none of that. It's a 12-year-old child dead, and Tamir Rice, there needs to be justice for him. That's how I personally feel about it. And our thoughts are out with his family tonight, and I won't get too much more on a rant about that. It's one of the most aggravating cases that we've seen recently, and we have seen quite
well,
a few.
And this is in my own conversations that I've had with people about Tamir Rice and the Tamir Rice case, and I've talked to ex-military, ex-police supporters who pretty much that's the first thing they do, instead of actually discussing the fact that somebody lost their 12-year-old child that was playing in a park, a kid being a kid. God knows I played with pellet guns and BB guns and knives and all sorts of things. Of course, I'm a little bit older. Times were slightly different then. But, I did all of that stuff when I was a kid. A policeman pulled up, we, usually just kind of minded our own business. And if the police addressed us, we would stop doing whatever we were doing and respect the police's authority. Boy, how things have changed.
How things have changed indeed. So, something else that really, really, really needs to be brought up here, and the media has still harped on, a lot of different scenarios involving the Charleston shooting. That still hasn't died down from the media. And that's, the Charleston shooting, it's funny how stories can work, because that is an important story, and that is something we should talk about. But at the same time, when these news channels go 24 hours about one story, then you have to start asking, well, what else is going on behind this? Well, Barack Obama has basically just been giving, when it comes to trade agreements, the powers of a dictator a little bit. And the scariest part of this is something that Obama is clearly all about, and is a person that strives and tries to achieve that kind of political power. You want more power, so he was all about the TPA passing, but the Republican constituents in Congress, they were all about it too. They thought it was the greatest thing ever, that this needs to happen. this is going to be an absolute travesty for the economy. What few jobs we have, they're going to be going, and it's going to be the TPP. It's bad news, bad news, and you know they're having you right now. Look at the right hand in Charleston, and the left hand's doing something that doesn't need to be happening.
Well, you know, and one other thing too, a lot of people have said, spoken one way or the other about NAFTA. This is NAFTA on a global scale. Now,
corporations can sue the government.
Absolutely. A lot of American jobs, what few remaining manufacturing American jobs we have, are slowly going to be phased out and sent overseas. Think about that for half a second. When is this going to stop?
I don't know. Are we going to go to the end game here? Like, is this some global conspiracy? Is it just a bunch of idiots that are trying to achieve power? Ultimately, though, what does it matter if it's one or the other? It doesn't matter. We're playing the same game here. It doesn't matter if you listen to David Icke every day and you think there's lizard people, or you think that there's just a bunch of morons elected that are all about for themselves. Either way, we're screwed.
Yeah, that's pretty much about the size of it. And now we have this whole the Russian-American arms race is ramping back up again.
Yeah, and that's so weird to me that's happening. That they're doubling the spending, I believe.
Yeah, what the Pentagon's done is they've went before Congress and they've asked for an additional $18 billion more a year. It's going to total almost $1 trillion in 30 years' time, simply for the modernization and maintenance of our current nuclear arsenal. And we've had a lot of military strategists, former military, have said, look, to achieve the current president's current global objective, we can take half of the nuclear arsenal we've got, so that would be half of $18 billion would be $9 billion. So that would only be $500 billion in 30 years instead of $1 trillion. But as we well know, the Pentagon's not about saving any money. In fact, it's quite the opposite. How much hooker and blow can you buy with $8.5 trillion? I mean, think about it.
Well, it depends. Is the Secret Service paying for it?
No, we paid for it, buddy. We all paid for it. Every single person that's listening to this broadcast paid for that. The trillions of dollars.
We paid for it when the Secret Service
that
did
the
it too.
Pentagon has just lost. We don't know what happened to it. Must be under the couch somewhere.
Oh.
Got swept behind the rug.
It
fell behind the dresser, yeah.
That's all that it was.
Yeah.
Do you really think the government's going to mismanage your money?
Or the Pentagon, for that matter.
Yeah, why can't... What is the deal? Here's the thing that's so crazy to me about all that situation is especially, okay, the transparency within the government, which is completely laughable.
Well, no, actually, you're right, because they're more transparent daily. We were talking about this recently on this show, about the fact that the government doesn't care anymore. They're going to do it in broad daylight and have reporters stand there and snap
and that's
pictures.
the scary part. Look, okay, you've got people like Lindsey Graham or whatever, and talking about the NSA and Chris Christie and Jeb Bush, and they're just, Bush is praised Obama. Well, the one good thing he has done is this whole entire NSA program, blah, blah, blah.
Weak.
Yeah. So, but if you've got nothing to hide, then why can't we just see everything that you're doing?
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't done anything wrong, so what do you care if we have all your information? Meanwhile, have we gotten a legitimate, true audit of the Pentagon?
No. What do we do that for? That's behind the couch cushion. We'll look for it later.
There's all this money that goes up missing there.
We'll look for it later.
Where's the audit on that?
We'll look for it later.
And here's the irony, is the government wants to look into your life, and that's not their stuff, even though they think they own you. That's yours, not the government's. What the government has is yours. The money the government has comes from the people. outside of, you know, the senseless printing and borrowing and yada, yada, yada. Either way.
You know, we're in all of this debt. The whole entire world is in debt. If you stop to think about that, look at what's going on in Greece right now in the European Union.
Wow.
How they're turning on each other. Everybody's in debt. Who are we in debt to? If the whole world is in debt, who are we in debt to? Ask yourself that simple question and start to come up with some kind of answer for that. If you can't, then you need to listen to the show a little bit more often.
Well,
who are we in debt to? Billions upon trillions of dollars. Who are we in debt to?
Well, you know, there's debt to go around the board. I think I know exactly where you're going with this, and I think you're going to bring up the continent of Asia. But at the end of the day, look at Confederate flags. Obviously, been in the news a lot lately. Well, I'm going to go ahead and assume most of those Confederate flags were probably made in China, just like most of the American flags that are made in China.
Yeah.
Along with everything else
Yeah.
that is bought and sold in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So their economy depends on us. You know, we go back, we play off of each other. And there is no easy answer, because you can sit here and you can talk about the military side of that argument. Well, what if China decided to rear its head at us? You know, what if they decide to cash in the debt? You know, we've discussed that they have more troops in their military than we have citizens.
They could just send all our elementary school children.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, just shove a gun in their hands, kind of like we've done in
but here's
previous
the
campaigns.
here's the flip side to that, okay? The technology that we possess could handle a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, and they're pretty technologically advanced these days, aren't they? Yeah.
But we just got done discussing a nuclear arms race, and we're doubling.
And I didn't even bring China into that discussion.
But the nuclear arms race goes back to really ultimately United States and
China
Mr. Putin.
China would just be content to sit back. They've got all America's money and America's interests. We've propped up China's economy pretty well here recently. I mean, you know, things are looking up for
and they own
communist folks
most of our debt too.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. All of our jobs are being sent over there. And I'm not saying that we need to have a complete trade embargo with China or this, that, and the other. I think we need to be more self-sufficient. Hello?
Well, that's exactly it. And that's why I think, you know, people going about Richard Nixon and his presidency, and this is probably boring to a lot of people, but what they don't understand is that Nixon ruined this country economically. He ruined it. You know, and they talk about, there's one thing of opening trade and there's another of just sending everything overseas. But it was a twofold kind of a situation, because when Nixon, what he did in 1971 with gold and completely ending everything that the dollar had to do with anything backing it up, and after that point there was nothing backing the dollar up other than just their make-believe stuff that they said, and the process of the economy, and then opening up the border with China, that ruined things. Have open trade, that's fine. But when you take any backing away from the currency, you've absolutely ruined yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody ever pays attention to that. You know, especially with Nixon. Well, he was a terrible president because of Watergate, blah, 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 blah. You know, when it comes to crimes by presidents, including Nixon, Watergate wasn't that severe. What he did in his career as president was very severe.
It was way worse than that little small, tiny incident.
Right. That's just what they got him on. And he resigned.
I mean, that was right up there with, you know, Clinton getting a Hummer in the Oval Office, you know.
Right. It
really is, as far as the grand scheme of things, as far as what true evil had been perpetrated in either one of those
You stole
acts.
some files from the Democratic Party, blah, blah, blah. You were spying on some people, basically. We didn't know about it. We covered the plot, whatever. They're spying on everybody now. Everybody. It's a billion times worse than that what got Nixon put out.
And we're not just talking about the American people. We're talking about everybody worldwide.
Oh, yeah, the story's been out just recently about how we were spying on Sarkozy in France and the whole French government. But we're like, no, we didn't do that. What are you talking about? What? That's what they always do. What do you mean?
No, God, no. Relax, man. No.
It's okay. We love you. We didn't do anything. So we're going to go ahead and pick up a caller here. Area code 205 from right here in Birmingham. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing great. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Good to hear. Well, I was calling in because I was kind of catching what y'all were speaking about the Fed and the Federal Reserve, and then, of course, where all of our money was going to. But one thing that kind of, on top of that, kind of just, not just necessarily aggravated me, but how y'all were saying that we owe China all of our, or basically China owes us, or no, rather, they own all of our debt.
It's not all of it. It's not all of it.
But they own a sizable portion of it.
Well, I mean, they do for a foreign nation. Of course, China is the number one nation that holds our the amount of U.S. debt compared to the rest of the world, with Japan being number two. But in comparison, I mean, the United States is, I think, we're approaching a little over $19 trillion in debt now. And China probably owns, last statistic I'd seen, about $1.3 trillion, with Japan in second place at a little under $1 trillion. And then, of course, you count for the rest of the world, them combined probably amount to another $1 trillion. But the sad thing is the rest of that debt is held by us, the American people. So in reality, government is more in debt to us than anyone else. I mean, China just could recall all of the debt that they, or they could just dump our currency on the market. And I'm sure the United States, being the power that we are, we could still, find other nations that are so loyal to us to buy up that debt. And so, I mean, in that aspect, yes, it's significant that they own that amount, but it's more significant that we're even at $20 trillion.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, we know how this works, and they don't act like the debt to us even exists, because I think on one hand it's like, well, we're all in this together, we're all collectively in this together, so it's us, and then I think on the other side of it, the government's like, we own these people, so it doesn't count.
Well, yeah, and I mean in reality too, unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that. And like when you were discussing earlier, like where do we get this money from? Well, the Fed actually, because the Fed and the Federal Reserve are two separate entities. The Fed, of course, is part of the government, but then the Federal Reserve is
No. The Fed and the Federal Reserve are the exact same thing, and they're both private entities, and there are multiple Federal Reserves around the country. But the main one that Janet Yellen is the head of right now is nothing to do with the government, and the Fed and Federal Reserve are exactly the same thing.
So, for instance, when I was taught in economics, I've looked into it myself, and I do a lot of reading. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm 100% right. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive that I have looked into it enough that I'm confident that I am correct about this. But that's the Fed and the Federal Reserve. So anytime the Fed needs to print money, they have to go to the Federal Reserve, the central bank. Of course, that is the bank every country.
You're thinking of the Treasury Department, and
the Treasury. I'm sorry.
You're thinking of the Treasury.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Fed and the Federal Reserve are the same thing, and you're thinking of the Treasury Department.
Yeah, I got a little confused on that. But I think I was just thinking too far ahead.
You're right in your schematics, but I got you. Go ahead.
So, but I mean, the fact that they are borrowing from the Treasury is borrowing from the Fed, and the Fed is basically a board consisting of maybe 5 to 8 people. I'm not certain on the amount how many people are on the board, but the board authorizes. Okay, well, say just for a simple equation, we're going to give them $1 million, but for that $1 million, they have to repay us, $1.3 million. And so, of course, the Treasury, they take that offer because they have no other choice. and then they print money, and we owe them more debt. And this has been a constant scale since probably the 1920s, the Jekyll Island whole conspiracy, if everyone's ever heard about that. Have y'all heard about Jekyll Island?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's basically a never-ending, it's a constant cycle that is just consisting of debt. It's like, I mean, and this is what now is across the whole entire world, the entire monetary system that we have today, especially with the globalization taking place. You know, it's amazing to me that, you know, a lot of people don't realize this.
Absolutely. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and stay on the line with us, and we'll just have a little round table here tonight. And let's bring on Manny. Manny, how you doing, sir?
Manny!
Yes, I'm Gibson. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Happy birthday, Manny!
Oh, man, I've been back from the battle zone and stuff like that. I'm amazed I'm even back, you know, because I thought I was going to be locked up in Mexico.
I heard it was kind of a rough trip back for you.
Yeah, it really was and stuff like that. So I made it to my 55th birthday. I appreciate the love there. SM Gibson, Shannon Madden, he forgot about me because he's so busy about trying to.
I have been literally covered up. I'll explain it off air here in a little bit. But yeah, it's been a busy past few days. Many happy returns. I'm so glad you're back, Manny.
Well, I appreciate it. I cut you know, Brother Shannon some slack though, because he put in a vote for president for Manny.
The campaign is on, my friend. We're going to officially announce on Fox News any day now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Manny keeps saying nobody for president, and Shannon's like, I'm not having any of this. I'm voting for Manny.
Manny for president.
Yeah. Well, you know who's voting for nobody for president? What's his name? The wrestler, you know, I'm talking about Jesse Ventura, you know.
Oh man, I love Jesse Ventura.
Is he running?
Yeah, I love it. You know, he's doing the campaign. He's following. He says, "Yeah, vote nobody for president." You know.
Ventura's really running.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, I know he keeps threatening, but Trump threatened it forever too, and he finally threw. And I haven't heard about Ventura though. I know he's threatened it, but he always does. So, will he actually do it? Who knows?
I don't think he'd do it. I think
might
he's
as well.
Smart for it. I think he's smart to do it.
No, he's campaigning to tell people vote for nobody for president.
Oh, okay, yeah. Manny, you're actually John the Baptist in this one because you've been spearheading this one. You get credit for this because you came out with it first.
Yeah.
I'd vote for Shawn Michaels before I would Ventura, but whatever. That's a whole different conversation.
Oh, come on now. He went toe-to-toe with Chris Kyle and lived to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Let me say.
Yeah, so Manny, what's going on in your part of the world right now? What's going on in your part of the world?
Yeah, basically, I saw some surreal, sad things and stuff like that, where the feds down there were beating up young kids and children. I mean, there's a lot of blood. Man, you talk about protesters and stuff like that being bloody and stuff like that and being dragged and stuff like that, and it just, you know, but we did accomplish one thing. They said, okay, if we're going to vote for corrupt government, let's not vote for nobody. And so they burned all the precincts in my home state, and also the ballots were burned. And then it caught on in other parts of the country. And of course, it started in my home state because we're still fighting that 43 that disappeared in September and stuff. And so this is where we're getting attention in Mexico. It's when the teachers are part of the movement, everybody in Mexico is saying, wait a minute, the teachers are part of the movement. Something must be very completely wrong. But it's sad for me to say, you know, I'm very sentimental about it, and I kind of cried down here on my way back, where the United States government has got blood in their hands because there's a lot of brand new equipment down there, machine guns, you name it. I mean, I talked to journalists undercover, pictures. I mean, the government is supplying the Mexican government with a lot of money, a lot of weapons, Humvees to the max, brand new military equipment, supposedly for the drugs on, you know, the war on drugs, that is to kill our people down there because we want democracy and stuff like that. So the U.S. Government has blood in their hands because they're trying to get rid of people that want democracy and stuff like that. And that's a really sad thing for me to have to be watching all this, you know, and just completely wondering, God, this has got to stop. You know, this just can't continue. And then we hear the big news down here from Mexico City, Donald Trump talking about how we're all rapists and drug addicts and gangsters that come from Mexico. And I'm so happy that Univision says, you know what, our contract is up with you. That's it. See ya. Bye. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you just that was a whole mouthful of wow that just came out of your mouth, Manny. First off, you know, I don't know if people are aware of, or most of the people that listen into the show, Manny is very politically active in Mexico. And I hope that everybody was listening very carefully to what just came out of his mouth, because that's probably the only place that you're going to hear anything like that as far as any media source. Did you see that on CNN or actually catch that blurb on Fox? That is some huge, major news for everybody to go get so fed up with their government that they show up at every single one of the voting precincts and burn it to the freaking ground. Are you kidding me? If something like that happened here in America, oh, but man, we'd be watching it right now. We'd have the TV off and it'd still keep coming on and shoving it all in your. Oh man, they're burning all the precincts.
Only
down
if they were Muslim.
Only
if they were Muslim. If it wasn't, they wouldn't care.
America, take heed, because this is what's coming. This is what's coming, and it's not in the form of the Mexican government or the Mexican government's going to come raid us or so on and so forth. No, this is what's the story that just came out of Manny's mouth is what's going to happen here in the United States if we let it continue to go unchecked. Bottom line,
Manny, see if you agree with this. That the United States is in a unique position right now. Is that they can kind of look at what's happening in Mexico to a degree and kind of gauge what could possibly happen here in the United States, and we could, you know, use that as a warning and almost as a prophecy and say, okay, this is what's happening given these circumstances, and we need to, you know, change our path.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, when you hear people talking, you know, you hear the non-government down there trying to kill us people, but then you see the cartels and say, okay, if we put 5,000 of our people in every border, you think the traffic is going to come to the United States? I don't think so. Nobody's going to be driving through 5,000 cartel people with machine guns. It's not going to happen. It's going to overspill to the United States. So I think they should be looking and saying, oh, my God, you know what? But the problem is, this is the problem that I hear in the United States a lot. What's that got to do with us? Well, you know what? When it comes to war zones, borders will not hold people back. You know what I mean? It's going to go crazy and stuff like that, you know? And one of the sad stories that we saw down there in Spanish, too, is wait a minute, you know, because people are confused down there. They're saying to me, wait a minute. If that kid that killed those 9 people was Mexican and black, they would have been shot down. But yet this guy gets a vest put on, taken to Burger King, and he's not called a thug or a terrorist. What is up with that, Manny? And, man, that was hard to explain to them. You know,
I'll say this, Manny, and this is a little, you know, a little bit of satire, but, you know, we got to hang out at the March Against Monsanto a little bit this year, and taking him to Burger King is no real prize for him.
Well, yeah, you got that point. Okay.
I hear what you're saying. Oh, man. And stuff like that. But
I
it's
could
just
taste it. When you said that, I could just taste
Yeah,
that
I threw
Whopper
up a little bit in my mouth.
That chemical charboiled taste that they put on there because they don't actually fry their burgers anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But you've got a great point, and you know, it was kind of something that I kind of mentioned offhand earlier. Think about if he was Muslim. Think about if that kid was Muslim, what the world would be doing right now. They would be exploding. Did y'all hear Lindsey Graham the other day? He was describing this kid and what
Did
he
he
had
come
done.
out yet?
No, not yet. I guess he's still saving the date for McCain, but that's a whole different story. But so Lindsey Graham's sitting here talking on the floor of the Senate about the entire situation, you know, and this happens in his home state, and he just keeps saying, "This is Mideast hate. This is Mideast hate." Like, repeated it. Like, what? Like, so the Mideast, like, they have, like, a monopoly on hate? Is that what you're telling me, Lindsey Graham? Like, how in the world he even mentions anything about the Middle East when you're talking about some kid with a stupid bowl cut that's apparently massively super racist that looks like a psychopath and goes and blows away 9 people? What are you mentioning the Middle East for? It's like, are you really trying to, like, you think people are that stupid? Like,
Now, whoa, wait a minute. Let's back that up. Remember 9/11? Remember what 9/11 wrought?
listen,
Terror.
I
Freedom.
understand.
Terror.
I'm
Freedom.
with you on that. And I
Terror.
understand
Freedom.
people have gone along with some really crazy things in this country. And they've gone along with crazy things all around the world. But for Lindsey Graham to be like, this is Mideast hate. This kid's got Mideast hate. Like, what are you talking about?
It worked for Bush, man. I'm serious. I think it was a valid political
Isn't
strategy.
Israel in the Mideast?
I mean, anybody with half a lick of sense
Like-
should be able to see through it. I mean, we're all talking about Lindsey Graham. And you know what? I need to go back to a point that you made earlier. I think him and John McCain would make a cute couple. They really
They
would.
are a cute couple. Not would, but whatever.
Wonder who's the top.
I'm not getting into any of that. But yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, Manny. I think you nailed it on the head. If it was a brown person that was involved in that shooting, the world would be treating it completely differently.
Oh, hands down, justice would be very swift, and there would be no trip to Burger King. Oh no, Brad.
No. As gross as it is, there would have been no trips. Did y'all see the video of the cops like high-fiving each other? And
Yeah.
So bizarre.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the teachers in Mexico, they were saying, okay, we saw all the cases down there, Manny, with I Can't Breathe, and that man was dead. Same thing happened to, Michael Brown and stuff like that. And what they said in Spanish, translated into English, is this kid just killed 9 people, and they're treating him like he robbed a bubblegum store. That's how they said it in Spanish, yeah.
Right. And see, here's another thing, and we really kind of went on at length about this on Tuesday and had a wonderful call and a great conversation about it. But this whole flag business, I get what it represents to people. I understand that. But this is not the conversation we need to be having right now.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much more.
First off, that's a conversation we should have had a long time ago.
Yeah.
But we've got 9 dead people. We have 9 grieving families, and we're talking about some massive hate, and they're trying to cover it up with the distraction of a piece of cloth. And we've got Amazon pulling down Confederate flags. Meanwhile, we're selling Nazi cell phone covers with swastikas on them. And
Apple came out and took down games with even a Confederate flag. I think there was one game that was like a Civil War game, and they took that down.
I saw that. I tell you what. Somebody needs to get rid of duck hunt. To be honest with you, you got a gun. You're killing ducks.
Everybody shot at that dog. Everybody shot.
Just friendly ducks just flying through the air. It's like
digital ducks matter.
I'm sorry.
Digital ducks matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where they're going with it. That's how ridiculous.
If they want to go to that route, and then what you're stating,
that's kind of the route they're going.
That's violent. That's killing something. That's teaching killing. And so, like Manny was saying, and y'all were just speaking about how Lindsey Graham was, comparing it to the Middle East, which is no comparison whatsoever. You can't compare an individual.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hate is universal, by the way.
Exactly. But, the Middle East, of course, is a whole different, many different types of ideologies that stretch back all the way to 1,200 years ago, but yet he
you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing, but call it a reality, cause there's no illusion.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.